All right, so we are open up to page 115. We're going to correct last night's homework. So, all right, I know it is not very bright for my in-person students. So, I know. Oh, yep, you should have it. Okay, so, you guys, numbers 1 through 6. We were supposed to, they gave us a sentence. We were supposed to look and see, are they missing quotation marks, commas, or end punctuation? And if they are, where does it need to go? So number 1, you should have added a comma after pleaded. Should be a comma. Then you should have put, never mind, they already have quotation marks. So you should have just added a comma after pleaded. That's it. Then for number 2, you should have added a comma after said. So right after said, it should not be a part of is. It should be right after said. Number 3, you should have added a comma after year. Should not be a part of said. It should be a part of year, right after year. Then number 4, you should have added 2 things. First, Mary Jane asked, haven't you ever seen a peacock? So you should have added a question mark because it is a question, and then put quotation marks to the right of it to close out our quotation. Remember, our quotation, or what someone's saying, should always have quotation marks at the beginning and end of it. And make sure you have your question mark written first, then your quotation marks. Leave the computer alone, please. Then we have number 5. You should have added quotation marks right before these and after the period at the end of the sentence. Max? No, because it has an exclamation point already. You wouldn't add a comma after an exclamation point. Then we have number 6. You should have added end punctuation. Now, some people are asking me, Miss E, could I do a period or an exclamation point? Yes, so if you have an exclamation point for number 6, that would work. Just make sure your quotation marks are after the end punctuation, not before. How did we feel on numbers 1 through 6? How do we feel? Okay. When I ask that, I should see all of the class telling me. How do we feel about 1 through 6? Awesome. Awesome. Okay, go ahead, put your hands down. Then 7 through 14. You had to physically rewrite each sentence and add quotation marks, commas, and end punctuation, or capital letters where it was needed. So, we start at the top, number 7. Look out for that falling branch, I shouted from across the yard. There are a couple of things you had to do. First, you needed quotation marks to start the sentence. Then you should have capitalized the L in look. I don't know why it's so blurry. Maybe this will be better. Capitalize the L in look. Written everything else the way it is, including the exclamation point. But then, after that exclamation point, after branch, you should have written quotation marks, closed out what they were saying. Since there was already an exclamation point, you did not need a comma, but you should have capitalized the I. I shouted. And then added, or no, they already had a period at the end. Then for number 8, you should have capitalized the M in Mr. and added a period after it because it is an abbreviation. Then you should have capitalized the T in Taylor. Then, comma after added, because that's the last part of the sentence before the actual speaking part, the actual quotation. So added comma, quotation marks right before please. Then you should have capitalized the P in please because we're going into a direct quotation. Then you should have put quotation marks after the period at the end of the sentence. Number 9, you should have started with quotation marks, capitalized the D in do, added a question mark after hike because it says, do you think you can finish the hike? That is a question, so question mark. then quotation marks. Since there's already a question mark, we don't need a comma. And then the rest of it you should have written the way they had it. Number 10, should have started with quotation marks, capitalize the W in well. Then, because it says well, Miranda replied, I would like to at least give it a try. Miranda is saying well. So we would need to put quotation marks before well, a comma, and quotation marks after well. Because she starts by just saying well. Then, Miranda replied, comma, quotation mark, capital I would like to at least give it a try, period, quotation marks. There's a lot we had to do in number 10. Zoe.
But like, I didn't finish, but like, wouldn't it be like, well, Miranda replied, I would like to give it a try. Like, tattling.
Yeah, but then they would say that. You know, well, Miranda replied, I would like to at least give it a try, her sister said. Yeah. So that's how you would know. Then we had number 11. Let me scoot this down a little bit so we can see. Let me scoot this up. Sorry, guys. I know it's really blurry today. Okay, number 11. Wow, Terrell exclaimed. That building is really tall. So this is really similar to number 10. We have someone saying one word and then finishing the rest of what they want to say. So wow should be capitalized, quotation marks before it. And because it's the word wow, you would expect that there's an exclamation point instead of a period. So you should have an exclamation point. Then quotation marks. Terrell exclaimed. Then a comma. That should be capitalized. Make sure you have quotation marks right before it. That building is really tall. And again, if you wanted to put an exclamation point at the end of that, you could, because he is exclaiming something. Then end your quotation with quotes. You got 3 more. Number 12, put your muddy boots on the porch, Sam's mother instructed. You would start the sentence with quotation marks, capitalize the P in put. So put your muddy boots on the porch. Then you need a comma or a period, quotation marks, and then Sam's mother instructed. Then finally, 13, Gina asked, so you write it just as they have it, but then you need a comma after asked, quotation marks, then you're supposed to capitalize the W in will. Will we be on time for the movie? So then you should have added a question mark because she's asking a question and ended with those quotation marks. And finally, number 23, capitalize the D in did because it's the beginning of a sentence. Did you say, comma, quotation marks, turn should be capitalized. So capital T in turn. Turn left on First Avenue. That's a street, isn't it? That should be capitalized. So capital F in first, capital A in Avenue. Question mark because it's a question. Then close with quotation marks. How many of you missed at least one thing? You missed at least one thing here. Okay. Was it maybe because you were going too fast?
Yes.
Maybe? Or you didn't see it necessarily?
Yes.
Okay. Overall, though, how do we feel about knowing where to put the quotation marks and the commas and capitalizing? Everyone show me on your hand. How do you feel about it? Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right, nice job. Hands down. I would like you to stand up and take a stretch break.
I want to actually do a bridge.